Stop fighting what your body has already decided. Kang-Dae's voice cut through the marble silence of the penthouse kitchen like a blade wrapped in velvet. I froze, dish towel still in my hand, water dripping from the wine glass I'd been drying for the last 2 minutes like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Welcome to Afro-Korean Mafia Romance, lovely viewers. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment below where you're watching from. I didn't turn around right away. I couldn't. Not with my pulse slamming against my throat like it was trying to escape my body and run straight into his arms, which was the last thing I needed it to do. "Excuse me," I said, and I was proud of how steady my voice came out, because inside, I was anything but steady. "You heard me, Jasmine." That was the thing about Kang-Dae. He never raised his voice. He didn't have to. 6 years running the largest shipping empire on the eastern seaboard, half of it legitimate, the other half something nobody in this penthouse ever said out loud, had taught him that real power whispered. Screaming was for men who needed to be believed. Kang-Dae simply was. I turned around slowly, chin up, because if there was one thing my grandmother taught me growing up in the Bronx, it was that you never let a man see you shrink. Even a man who owned the building you worked in. Even a man whose eyes right now were moving over me like he already knew what my skin felt like under his palms. "I have 3 more glasses to dry, Mr. Kang," I said, deliberately formal, deliberately putting distance between us with his own title. "Then I'll be out of your way. You've been out of my way for 6 months. He stepped further into the kitchen, sleeves rolled to his forearms, the black ink of a dragon curling up from his wrist and disappearing beneath the fabric. I'd wondered, more nights than I wanted to admit, where exactly that dragon ended. That's the problem. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. 6 months. 6 months since Diane at the agency called me half crying with relief because a high-profile private household needed live-in staff and the pay was triple anything I'd made at the hotel. 6 months since I'd walked into this penthouse overlooking the Hudson and felt, for the first time since my mother's diagnosis drained every account I had, like I could actually breathe. 6 months of pretending I didn't notice the way his eyes tracked me across a room. 6 months of telling myself it was nothing. 6 months of lying to myself in the dark, in my small staff quarters 2 floors below his, hand pressed to my own stomach, wondering what it would feel like if he ever stopped pretending too. "I don't know what you're talking about," I lied. "Don't you?" He was close now. Too close. Close enough that I caught the low, warm scent of him, cedar and something darker underneath, something that made my thighs press together without my permission. "You avoid my eyes at breakfast. You leave a room the second I enter it. You wear 3 layers in July because you think if I can't see the shape of you, I'll stop noticing you exist." Heat crawled up my neck. That's ridiculous. Is it? His hand came up, not to touch me, just close enough that I felt the heat of his palm an inch from my jaw, and I hated my body, hated it, for leaning toward that heat instead of away. "Tell me I'm wrong, Jasmine. Tell me you don't lie awake wondering what would happen if I walked into your room instead of past it." I should have slapped him. I should have quit on the spot, called Diane, packed my 1 suitcase, and never looked back. Instead, I whispered, "You're my employer. I'm a lot of things." His thumb finally grazed my jaw, featherlight, and my whole body lit up like 5th Avenue at Christmas. "Employer is the least accurate. Kang-Dae. Say it again." His voice dropped even lower, rough at the edges now, the careful control cracking just slightly. "My name. Not Mr. Kang. Not sir. Say it like you mean it." God help me, I did. "Kang-Dae." Something shifted in his eyes, dark, hungry, dangerous in a way that should have terrified me and instead made every nerve in my body sing. He didn't kiss me. Not yet. He just let his forehead rest against mine, both of us breathing like we'd run a marathon, standing in a kitchen that cost more than my mother's entire house back in the Bronx, 2 people from opposite ends of the earth who had absolutely no business wanting each other this badly. "I have spent 6 months being patient," he said quietly. "I am done being patient." Then his phone rang. Not just any ring. A specific, sharp tone I'd heard only twice before, both times right before men in dark suits showed up at the penthouse door and Kang-Dae's whole demeanor turned to ice. He stepped back from me instantly, the warmth gone from his face like someone had thrown a switch, and answered in rapid, low Korean I couldn't follow. But I understood one word, repeated twice, hard as a slammed door. Hwang. I'd heard that name whispered by the security staff. The rival faction that had been circling Kang-Dae's territory for months, testing borders, sending gifts that were really warnings, a burnt-out car outside a warehouse, or associate found in the East River. Whatever Hwang wanted, it wasn't a courtesy call. Kang-Dae's jaw tightened. He looked at me, and for 1 second, the man who'd just had his forehead pressed to mine looked like he was already someone else, someone colder, someone I'd only seen in photographs the housekeeper wasn't supposed to show me. "Go to your room," he said. "Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me." "What's happening?" "Jasmine. My name, sharp now, not soft. Please." I went. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the dark listening to footsteps in the hallway 2 floors up, the low murmur of voices, a door slamming somewhere far below in the parking garage. Around 3 a.m., I heard what might have been a car backfiring, or might have been something I didn't want to name. By morning, there was blood on the marble by the elevator, already half cleaned, and Kang-Dae had a shallow cut above his eyebrow that the household staff were instructed, in hushed tones, never to mention. He found me in the kitchen at 7, the same spot as the night before, like the universe was daring us to finish what we'd started. "You're hurt," I said before I could stop myself, setting down my coffee, reaching for him without thinking. He caught my wrist. "Not roughly, the way you catch something precious before it falls. Hwang sent a message last night," he said. "He knows about you." The floor tilted under me. "Knows what about me?" "That you matter to me." His thumb traced slow circles over the inside of my wrist, and even now, even with fear crawling up my spine, my body responded to him like it had a mind of its own. "Which means, as of last night, you are no longer just my maid, Jasmine. You are a target." "I don't want your protection," I said, even as my voice shook. "I want the truth. All of it. Not the parts you think I can handle." Something flickered across his face, surprise, maybe, that I hadn't run. Or that I'd asked for more instead of less. "Sit," he said. "You've earned that much." For the first time in 6 months, Kang-Dae told me everything, the shipping empire that was real, and the second empire underneath it that wasn't legal by any definition, built by his father and inherited along with a war he never asked for. He told me about the men who answered to him and the ones who wanted him dead. He told me why he'd never let himself want anyone the way he wanted me, because wanting someone, in his world, was the same as painting a target on their back. "You should hate me for this," he said quietly, when he was finished. "For putting you in danger just by looking at you the way I do." I thought about my mother, about the medical bills, about the version of myself that showed up to this penthouse 6 months ago starving for a way out and instead found a man who made her feel, for the first time in years, like she was allowed to want something just for herself. "I've spent my whole life being told what's safe," I said. "Safe jobs. Safe men. Safe dreams that never scared anyone, including me." I reached across the space between us and laid my hand over his, over the ink and the scarred knuckles and everything he thought made him unlovable. "I'm tired of safe, Kang-Dae. I want real. Even if real is dangerous." He kissed me then, finally, achingly, like 6 months of restraint breaking all at once, and it was nothing like I'd imagined in the dark of my staff quarters. It was better. Slower. Like he was trying to memorize me before the world took the chance away. Hwang did not go quietly. 3 weeks after that morning in the kitchen, I was pulled into Kang-Dae's world in ways I never expected, meetings I wasn't supposed to witness, a black SUV that followed me to the pharmacy and back. A night I spent in a safe house in Weehawken with 2 guards standing outside my door while Kang-Dae handled something he refused to describe except to say, "It's over." I made sure of it. I learned things about him that would have sent the old Jasmine running, the ledger books, the men who feared his name, the cold efficiency with which he protected what was his. But I also learned the parts nobody else got to see, the way he read the same battered paperback every night before bed, a gift from his late mother. The way he called his little sister in Busan every Sunday and his whole voice changed, softened, became almost boyish. The way he looked at me like I was the only unguarded thing left in his entire carefully guarded life. The final confrontation came on a rooftop overlooking the Hudson, the city lights spread out beneath us like scattered jewels, Hwang's men finally cornered by Kang-Dae's, and Kang-Dae himself standing between me and a gun for the first time in his life, not because it was strategic, but because some things, he told me later, you simply do without thinking. "You could have died," I said afterward, hands shaking as I pressed a cloth to a graze along his shoulder, high above Manhattan, sirens fading somewhere below us. "I would have," he said simply, "before I let anything happen to you." I didn't cry. I'd promised myself in the Bronx a long time ago that crying didn't fix anything. But I let him hold me on that rooftop until the shaking stopped, until the city lights blurred into something soft and golden instead of sharp, until for the first time since I'd walked into his penthouse 6 months ago, I finally believed I was safe. We married the following spring, on a private terrace overlooking the same river that had watched every terrifying, impossible chapter of us unfold. My mother, healthy now, finally, thanks to a man who quietly paid off every medical bill without ever mentioning it, walked me down an aisle of white orchids while Kang-Dae stood waiting, tattoos hidden beneath a suit for once, eyes wet in a way I never once saw during a war but saw freely now, for me. 11 months later, our daughter was born in the same private hospital where Kang-Dae had once waited outside a operating room not knowing if I'd survive a different kind of danger. He held her like she was the only fragile thing he'd ever been trusted with, and when he looked up at me, there wasn't a trace left of the cold, controlled boss who'd once cornered me in a kitchen and told me to stop fighting what my body already knew. There was only a man who'd found, in the last place he ever expected, something worth being soft for. Our love started in danger. It nearly ended in blood. But it healed in a hospital room with our daughter's first cry, and it lives now in a home where a Bronx girl who once dried wine glasses for a living runs an empire of her own right alongside the man who stopped fighting the moment he saw her. Besties, if this story moved you, hit that like button. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and which moment got you the most. Subscribe so you never miss the next one. We have more coming that will wreck you beautifully. Until next time, we'll see you in the next one.